I said it sounds like they're asleep still.
A little bit. You guys don't get to be asleep. I was at a Kesha concert until 1 a.m. last night and got on the plane, so let's wake up this morning. How you guys doing this morning? There we go. All right, my name's Sean. I was the popcorn team leader for PAC 2017. We're a brand new PAC, hence 2017. We started June of last year. We were a splinter of an existing PAC, so we started with 33 scouts, and we ended up selling just over $190,000 in popcorn. I'm going to share with you our best practices and what we learned. I'm not expecting anyone to shoot for that $190,000, but if you do, I will do everything I can to help you beat that number because I think it's an absolutely phenomenal way to fundraise for your program. But generally speaking, if you can just take some best practices, some ideas here and there to help streamline your sale, grow your sale, that's my goal. And getting right to that, our first step was to build a team. Teamwork makes the dream work is actually becoming our PAC slogan. It's on our Class B shirts. Everyone knows the obvious benefits of teamwork. You have shared ideas and shared efforts. But I think teamwork is uniquely important for popcorn because it's going to protect the long-term success of your unit. I know a lot of colonels that do this alone. And our team actually had bear, wolf, and tiger leaders. My son was a bear. He's now a Weeblos, just bridged 2 weeks ago. But we're only in the program for another 20 months or so. By the time we bridge out, there's going to be a dozen people that have been a part of that popcorn team, and they can carry on the sale without me. Because we keep bringing new people on every year. Last year we had 4. Those same 4 volunteered to be on the team again this year, but we have 5 new people on the team already. So we're growing the team every year. The idea is that knowledge is always passed down, the workload is always shared, and at the end of the day, not only does it prevent burnout and guarantee long-term success, it makes it fun and scalable. We didn't know we were going to hit the number we did. We didn't, but we had fun the whole way through. That's what made it possible. It wasn't overwhelming for any one person. Now, once we had a team, we all went out to dinner and we started talking about our plan. It was our first year as a PAC, and our Cub Master was crazy. She's the visionary. We had 6 campouts, 4 day trips, Pinewood Derby, blue and gold, Christmas. The whole deal was on a calendar. And I'm the numbers guy, so I started adding all this up and paying for all these events and the recharter fees and the boys' life and the campouts and the Pinewood Derby, and we didn't even have a Pinewood Derby track. So we start adding all this up. It was going to cost us somewhere between $300 and $350 per scout. And that's a lot to ask of any family. But our popcorn team decided we're going to pay for all of that with popcorn. And to do that, we just needed each scout to sell $1,000. Which sounds really simple until we reached out and we talked to our district colonel and a few other units in the area who all said we were crazy. And I get that. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is you get a limited number of fundraising hours from your scouts and your parents. And we were going to have to come up with a plan that encouraged them to give us a few extra hours, but also maximize the effectiveness of their hours. And that was our plan. We focused primarily on show and sell. Over 90% of our sales came from storefronts. We are all over the place. I apologize. I'm a big fan of storefronts because they're very scalable. If you want to sell more popcorn, you just work more shifts. And that means more stores or more days of the week or more hours of the day. Most of the units in our area only sell primarily on the first 3 weekends, maybe a few Fridays in there, because that's when your sales are going to be by far the best. But we sell every day of the week, all the way through the sale. And what we found is when you're selling on weekdays, there's a lot of people that avoid shopping on weekends. They don't like the crowds. So it's a whole different customer base on the weekdays. And you can look at Google Analytics for some interesting store patterns. We found there's one chain in our area that releases a new flyer every Wednesday, new coupon flyer. So Wednesday sales were great. Now, we sell with 1 scout and 1 parent per shift. Each shift is 2 hours long. We average just over $250 per shift in sales. And I've talked with a lot of units that traditionally sell with 2, 3, 4, or more scouts per shift. And they almost always outsell us on a per shift basis. But the key is per hour. Because if I put 4 scouts at a table, they can sell, what, $500 or $600 worth of popcorn in a 2-hour shift? But if I take those same 4 scouts and put them at 4 different tables, different day of the week, time of the day, it doesn't matter. They're going to average closer to $250 per shift. For 4 shifts, that's $1,000 in sales. The same number of hours worked by your scouts, but you're almost doubling your sales potential. And that circles back to the plan of just doing everything we can to streamline it so that we're maximizing the dollars per hour that our scouts bring in. Because we're only going to get a certain number of hours from them. Now, a couple of the ways that we help keep those averages up, one of them is through training. We went to, our team split up. We went to every DAN meeting for we went to 2 meetings for every DAN. At these meetings, we answered questions for the parents. Yeah, and they're going to have questions about the system and what have you. We also worked with the scouts. We talked about Luke a few minutes ago. Luke's got some great selling tips. We take those types of tips and help the scouts develop a script that they're comfortable with. It's different for each kid, but something they can memorize, something that feels natural. Right? And then we break them up and we do role plays. Some scouts are the buyers, some scouts are the sellers. We practice and then we trade. That way the scouts get used to all of these different situations, and when someone gives them a new objection on why they're not going to buy, the scouts have heard it before, they've practiced it before, they're more comfortable. And then we also focus on presentation, because we are selling a premium food product and it is most definitely a premium price. It's a fundraiser. The presentation needs to match. If you look at the table here, we use a nice big vinyl banner. Sorry. It's 6 feet by 2.5, so it covers the entire front of the table. All of your extra stock can go under the table and it's not going to be seen. We use Velcro to hold the banner onto the table, because when you use tape, when you pull the tape off, it leaves that glue residue. By the 3rd or 4th time you've used it, you've got a black line across the top of your banner. Then we use a tablecloth, because inevitably someone's bringing their Starbucks or a Coke. It's going to spill and it'll stain the table. On a tablecloth, though, we can wash those regularly. The table always looks clean. We taught the scouts how to merchandise the table, how to set up the popcorn. I actually set up one of these tables in my room, so whenever someone came to pick up popcorn, they saw what it looked like. They walk into my house, the first thing you see is this table. The popcorn is organized by price. We have the microwavable products stacked up in the back. That way the bags, instead of laying on their back, they're standing up facing the customer. That packaging looks really nice. It shows the scouts. That's why people are buying it. So we want them to see it right away. And have you ever noticed that when you open up the cases, the bags are kind of crunched up from being shipped? We taught the scouts how to fluff them up. It sounds silly, but you want them to look nice and fluffy and full and brand new and fresh. And they got into it. They'd pop the corners out and make it look all fluffy and fresh and just really focus on that presentation. And then our council's take order sheet actually has pictures of the popcorn on the back and prices. We had a teacher in our pack that laminated these things for us, about 20. We put them on our table upside down. So it was a menu. The customer didn't see the order form. What they saw was the pictures of the popcorn and the prices. So if your scout is new, they forget a price, they've got something to reference. Or maybe it's a tiger, and they're a little nervous up there, and they're mumbling, and they're speaking very softly. The customer can't hear them. The customer has something that they can reference and help the scout facilitate the sale. Because I see it all the time when the customer wants to buy and they're trying to help the scout through the sales process. The menu helps facilitate that. You know, doing everything we can to just try and maximize the sales potential, make it easy for the scouts and parents. My favorite thing about show and sells, though, is the ability to recruit at the table. And this has been phenomenal for us. We were a brand new pack. What we did is I told our parents to actually be brave and engage people. If you've got a family that comes up to the table and they're buying popcorn, actually ask them and say, hey, are your kids in scouts? And then we share stories. I talk about my council's adventure weekend camp out, because this thing is amazing. Right? They rent out the entire regional park during the sheriff's rodeo. There's 1,500 scouts at this camp out. Right? They've got BB gun ranges, archery ranges. There's a lake. They've got canoes and rowboats. And best of all, there's rock climbing. Doesn't that sound like just a ton of fun? And I see heads nodding, of course. Yes, people say yes, it sounds like fun because it is fun. So I say, great. How would you guys like to sign up? We've got a little flyer stand with flyers they can take home and a clipboard with just a basic form to get their phone number, email address, and their name. Every day those forms come back to me. I'd scan them in at night and send them to our new member coordinator. He'd call them the next day and recruit them into our pack. we were able to grow from 33 scouts to 110 scouts in 1 year, primarily through recruiting at these tables. And we also referred a whole bunch of scouts to other units, because let's say their kid was too old. We'd refer them to our local troop. Maybe they were visiting a friend or a family member, and they're actually not from our area. That's no problem. We'll send your information to our district member coordinator, who will find a unit in your area. So we referred a whole bunch of other kids to other units as well. Because I know at the end of the day, you do a good turn, it's going to come back to you. They're going to refer a unit to, or a recruit to you at some point. Now, we had to get all of our scouts and our parents excited. And we did this in a few different ways. Our first step was actually to opt out of our council's prize program. We came up with our own system. And our primary reason there was we had a per scout goal of $1,000 in sales. And I didn't want to offer any sort of prizes or an incentive to sell below their goal. So in our prize program, our first prize was at $1,000 in sales. And what I found is all the prizes that we eliminated tend to be smaller, and they weren't a big motivator in the first place. Every scout wants the big prize. So we didn't lose any of the motivators. But what we did do is free up a bunch of money, because we weren't spending money on these little prizes. We could spend more money on bigger prizes at our higher levels. Our prize system was tiered. So if a scout sold $1,000, we were spending 4% on their prizes. But if they sold up to $10,000, we were spending a little over 10% of their sales on their prizes. And if you look there, it's a very aggressive prize program. Our goal there is just to absolutely reward the scouts and incentivize them, push them to go further. We ended up spending right around 7% of our total sales on our prize program. Now, we also know not every scout is going to be motivated purely by prizes. So we wanted to come up with other fun, mainly inexpensive ways to get them excited. So we had a top seller program where a scout can earn the title of top seller. Because some kids they want to be the best, they want that recognition, they want to be the top seller. And then we had a pie face competition. And this one was a lot of fun for the kids, not so much for the leaders. But for every $1,000 in popcorn that a scout sells, they earn one pie to pie face a leader. They can earn bonus pies. And the pie face thing has been done before, it's great, but the bonus pies are key, because our team tried to come up with just new, fun, crazy ways to earn bonus pies throughout the sale. If you sold the most popcorn opening weekend, if you had the most military donations, if you were one of the top 2 sellers in your den, every time we saw the kids, we gave them a new opportunity to earn bonus pies. Because our sale lasts for 8 weeks. We don't want them to be bored 3 weeks in. They've got to have a new source of excitement, a new goal all the way through. Now, at our PAC meeting in November, the kids hit us with 230 some whipped cream pies. It took a trip to Costco. We bought 72 of the giant Ready Whip cans. It was just a whipped cream massacre. It was ridiculous. Oops, sorry. It was ridiculous. It cost us $186 for whipped cream in tins. But at the end of the day, the payoff was tremendous, because I have scouts to this day talking about how much popcorn they're going to sell this year. And I need to sell $2,000 to hit this leader with 2 pies. And I want to hit my Cub Master with 3 pies. So they're setting ridiculous goals already. And we're months away from the sale because they're plotting who they're going to hit with pies. It's an incredibly inexpensive motivator. Now, we convey all of this to our scouts and parents at our kickoff. We break our kickoff into 3 parts. We do it for a reason. During the first part, we have the scouts and the parents in the same room, and we just go over the basics. These are the products we're selling, these are the dates, these are the prices, and we get through all that stuff as quickly as possible, 5 minutes maybe, because the parents are going to get an email with all that information anyway. As quickly as we can, we get into top seller, pie face, and then prizes. And once our prize sheet pops up on the projector, the scouts start going crazy. They get loud. They start seeing a Nintendo Switch and an Xbox, and I've got kids literally jumping up and yelling, and the parents are getting annoyed because they're sitting in the back of the room and they can't hear me anymore. But this is exactly what we're going for. We want them excited. So now we start the second part. I tell all the scouts to stand up and follow the Cub Master outside. And on their way out, every scout gets a copy of the prize flyer. When they get outside, we've got a whole bunch of popcorn games set up as rotations. Some are just fun, relay races and things like that. Other times they're practicing scripts and role plays back and forth. The important thing is while they're waiting in line, they've got that flyer in hand and they're looking at the prizes. And they're talking to their friends about, what are you going to get? What am I going to get? And then we had leaders working with them. Big poster board. We go up to every scout, get their name. Let's say it's little Johnny, and we write Johnny's name on the poster board. All right, Johnny, what's your goal? And he'd say, I don't know, I want the bike. So that's a great goal. You want that bike? That's a cool bike. It's going to take you about 11 popcorn shifts to earn that bike. Because we want to immediately associate the goal with an expected amount of effort to achieve it. Because if you don't, they just assume it's naturally going to happen. And then 3 weeks goes by and they haven't sold a single bag and they just give up. But you give them the plan immediately. It's about 11 popcorn shifts to earn that bike. And then for me, running the team, I have an incredible amount of information because I know what every scout's goal is. So when we're 3-4 weeks into the sale and I'm looking at my schedule and I've got a couple extra shifts that are open this weekend, I'm going to look at my sales report and see, oh, little Johnny sold 2,200 in popcorn. And I'll email mom and dad and say, hey, Johnny's doing great. He sold 2,200 in popcorn. He's on track to earn that bike and hit his goal. It's just going to take him about 2 more popcorn shifts to hit that goal. And when you know it, we have a couple shifts open this weekend. So why don't you hop on our schedule, book those shifts, and keep them on track. And it worked. At the end of the day, we had 30 scouts sell $2,500 or more and earn the Trails End Scholarship and get the really cool prizes that they were aiming for. We keep them on track to hit their goal the whole way through. Now, while the scouts are outside getting excited, we've got leaders identifying the goals, I'm inside with the parents. And we've thrown out some pretty crazy goals, so they're asking some really tough questions. But that's why it's just me and the parents. It's nice and quiet, they can be direct, and I had a couple of parents that were very direct. So you had to be ready. Why are we setting such a lofty goal of $1,000 per scout? Had to explain it to them. My goal there is just to get the parents to believe in it, to buy in. I'll talk more on parent buy-in in a couple slides. Now, phase 3. The parents suddenly think popcorn is the greatest thing since sliced bread. The scouts are super excited. We bring them back into the same room. We try to bottle all this positivity into a bigger commitment. Because even though we actually wanted $1,000 per scout as our goal, I wanted them to go for more. I wanted them to hit the cool prizes and the Trails End Scholarship, and we tried to steer them towards that $2,500 sales number. And we did that primarily through our top seller program. Now with this, if a scout pledges to be a top seller, and that we identify a top seller as any scout that will work 10 or more popcorn shifts. It's 20 hours of fundraising, puts them on track for $2,500 where they get the scholarship. Right, if they'll pledge to do that, we give them access to a special schedule and they can book shifts at the higher performing stores. Now these happen to be the same stores that are on the other side of the freeway and you've got to cross the bridge and there's a lot of traffic, or they're just further away, or we're in Southern California, it gets really hot. Maybe that store just faces south, there's no shade, you're not allowed to use an easy up, and you're going to bake in the sun all day long. We're taking all these things that are traditionally negatives and they keep scouts from selling at these stores. We're spinning it to them as a positive. You know, this is why you want to sell there, because no one else does. You're going to make more money. But not only is it a positive, it's an exclusive, because the only way you're allowed to book those shifts is if you sign that top seller pledge. And if you look at it, it actually has a scout signature line and a parent signature line where they're promising to work 10 or more shifts. We announce this at our kickoff and we say, hey, but if you guys come up on stage at the kickoff tonight and sign this pledge, you get to pie face a leader right now. You offer the instant gratification, right? We had 45 scouts attend our kickoff. 21 came up on stage with mom or dad and signed that pledge. It was incredible. I was hoping for maybe 10, and I knew a couple of them would be from our popcorn team. 21. That means between our 21 top sellers and our 24 goal sellers, we had $75,000 in sales committed at our kickoff a whole month before the sale started. The only way we could do that, though, was to get the parents to buy in and believe. Because if they don't believe in it, they're not going to go door to door, they're not going to sign up for the shifts, it's just not going to happen. And I start off just really stressing what a tremendous opportunity for character development that this fundraiser is. Because when the scouts are going door to door, they're at the storefronts, the most common thing they're going to hear is no. And the process of asking for something and being told no, then persevering through that rejection, maintaining a positive attitude. You still say thank you, have a nice day. You put a smile on your face and you stick with your script and you ask the next customer to support your scouting. That teaches kids these life skills and life lessons. It's what they're going to need for job interviews and college applications, and something as simple as asking someone to prom. Being able to have that self-confidence that they earn through this. This is not just a fundraiser. It's a fundamental part of our scouting program. It's how we teach the kids these skills that they need, because we want them to grow. We want them to be better than us. It's a part of our program. But it is also a fundraiser, and we take a very realistic approach. We have a very active pack. As I explained, we had a whole bunch of campouts and all these events planned, and we don't charge any dues. The Scouts activities are free, and most of the parent activities are free as well. Our blue and gold is catered and all that, and it's free for the whole family. It's all paid for by Popcorn. And all we ask of them is 4 shifts. That's 8 hours a year in fundraising. And we stress it that way, because if I told everyone they had to sell $1,000 in popcorn, they'd laugh me out of the room. Because $1,000 is a crazy number. That's car payments, mortgage payments. You can't sell $1,000 in popcorn. It's just not possible. But if I tell someone they only need to work 4 shifts, I know at the end of the day that's going to average out to $1,000 in popcorn. That's attainable. That's a definite thing. They can believe in that. And they do. But we honor that commitment. If I've got a scout that works 4 shifts and they sell under $1,000, they did their best, they earned their program for the year. Because I know I'm going to have another scout that sells over $1,000 in their 4 shifts. It's the nature of an average. But at the end of the day, as long as everyone in the pack works 4 shifts, the whole program is paid for. We've done everything we can here to just build this into our pack's DNA. Most of our recruits come from popcorn tables. They're aware of it up front. We're honest about it. We have a 4-shift requirement. It's a part of our program. It's how we teach these lessons. It's how we fund our program. But if you really want them to go the extra mile, you have to make it easy. My previous pack was actually on that top 10 list earlier. They're a top-selling unit, 803. But the colonel was using a Word document to manually track the schedule, and that'd be emailed out, and everyone would make their edits, and the sales were tracked manually in an Excel sheet. And I was getting emails from him at 2 or 3 in the morning, and the information was 4 or 5 days out of date. He did an amazing job and put in incredible hours, and the pack put up tremendous numbers, but it was just way too much work. So our team did everything we could to automate all of this. Our storefront schedule is put onto signup.com. I know a lot of people have used Signup Genius. Basically the same thing. I like signup.com a little better. And if you guys aren't using this, it's amazing, because the parents can sign up for the shifts whenever they want. All they have to do is just go on the website, click the shifts that work for them. It's going to add the shifts into their iPhone or Android calendar, so there's no scheduling conflict, and send them a reminder email the day before, so they're not going to forget and no-show. And then we used Square. How many of you guys use Square or similar? So most people here. One of the things that we did a little bit different is we set up a business account with Square. And we added all of our scouts as employees of the business. And what this does is every scout gets their own login. So when they're at the table or they're door to door, they have their own individualized login. Every sale they make, cash or credit, gets recorded and attributed to them. So they can see their sales in real time and know exactly where they are, but so can I. And the reports that this lets you pull are phenomenal. I can see how much popcorn every scout has sold, my top selling scouts, my best performing stores, best day of the week, best time of the day, but most importantly, I'll identify which scouts are underperforming. And when a scout is underselling their peers, this is not something we just kind of want to look away at. It's a training opportunity. This is someone that needs help. I had one great example. I had a scout in my den who was dramatically underselling, averaging $86 a shift for his first 2 shifts, when most of the pack was doing closer to $300 at that time. And find out it's primarily because of a language barrier. Their family spoke English as a second language, and it was really difficult for the parents. So we worked with the scout and his parents 20 or 30 minutes at a den meeting, just practicing some scripts, explaining a few extra things to the parents and getting them comfortable. When he did his next 2 shifts, he was averaging over $200 a shift. And we would send these reports out to the den leaders and identify, hey, these are the scouts that need a little bit more time. And so that way, everyone that needs it is getting a little bit more coaching, a little bit more help, and keep that sales average going up. So the individual sales tracking features were just phenomenal. Now, does anyone here not accept credit cards? Shame on you. No, accepting credit cards.
It was my first time doing popcorn. That's
Okay.
the only reason why, and so it was all new. But
It's actually extremely common. I'd say
We can
only
do
about
that.
half the units nationwide seem to take credit cards. So you guys are already better than average in here, but it's absolutely tremendous because we did all sorts of research. At the end of the day, when someone uses a credit card instead of cash, they spend more money. The studies say anywhere from 18 to somewhere over 20% more. So if someone's going to use a credit card, they're going to buy a bigger bag of popcorn, they're going to buy a collection. The increased size of that sale more than offsets any fees you have to pay. But the big one is the objections. Because when someone doesn't want to buy popcorn, their most common objection is, oh, I don't have any cash. And if you don't take credit cards, you've just lost the sale. But my scouts can say, oh, that's okay, we take credit cards. And we don't advertise that we take credit cards because we want to set people up for this. Because at that point, they've gone to their default objection. If you can overcome that, now they have a choice. They either have to invent a new excuse to not buy, or they do what's easier and they come back to the table and they buy something. And a surprising number of them actually pay with cash because they had cash the whole time. That was just their go-to excuse. So accepting credit cards can actually increase your cash sales. At the end of the day,
Real quick,
yes.
I have a handout on setting up credit cards. Raise your hand and I'll hand them out.
Excellent. 25% of our sales. 25% of our sales were credit card based. So the growth there is just phenomenal of what you can do. You know, our overall goal through all of this is just to make it as easy as possible on the parents, because just show of hands, who has a top seller in their program? You know, a scout or parent that always goes the extra mile. Most people, right? If you give them the tools, they can take it further. Now, who has a group of scouts or parents that kind of always do the minimum? I see a lot more hands. We set the minimum bar pretty high at $1,000 per scout. So we had to give them the tools. We had to make it simple. You click this button 4 times. You show up for 4 shifts. You've got $1,000 in sales. Your program is paid for the entire year. Overall results, Trails End wanted me to focus on numbers. I prefer to focus on the program that the numbers give us. We grew from 33 scouts. This says 109. We actually just got a new recruit, so 110 today. Scouts earned their program. You know, it wasn't mom and dad writing a check for the dues and the campouts. They earned it. Our participation rates, our attendance is just phenomenal. We're only a year old, and at almost every event we go to, we're the largest unit in attendance because they earned it. They show up. I've had parents tell me they've seen differences in their kids. I've had parents tell me that teachers have seen differences in their kids, saying, hey, little Johnny sat in the back of the class and never spoke up, and now he's raising his hand. What changed? And the process of selling popcorn and the way we've set it up with 1 scout, 1 parent, it forces them to learn to grow out of that shell and gain that self-confidence. And it rewards them for it every step of the way through prizes and things like that. So they earn it. And then we've invested in our program. We have 2 Pinewood Derby tracks, a shed, first aid kits. The funding that this has provided us has done tremendous things for our program. It's also allowed us to sponsor scouts into the program. If we have a family with financial needs, uniforms are no longer a concern. You know, we can provide these things. And then my favorite one, Special Needs Games Day. Every rank seems to have some sort of outdoor activity, be it an obstacle course, team sport, or what have you. This year, our PAC has decided to give back and do an activity. We're going to have a big picnic, and every rank is going to set up their outdoor activity. We rented out our community park for this. We've invited all of these special needs classes and the special needs ministries from the local churches to attend this picnic for free. We have all the activities set up. It's tremendous. We're expecting well over 500 people, and we're able to fund this entire event through popcorn. one of the things that our leadership team talked about was you have the old school image of scouting, of a scout helping a little old lady across the street. And that image has faded, it's gone away. We wanted to kind of bring that back and find ways to do that. And our Special Needs Games Day is our way of using our proceeds from popcorn to give back to our community. But in doing so, we're also teaching the scouts how to help others, which is really phenomenal. And then at the end of the day, yeah, we also referred over 50 scouts to the unit. That's the part where I get really excited. Scouting's done amazing things for my kid. He joined as a wolf, he just bridged to Weeblos. He has changed and grown as a person in ways that I can't even describe. When we first started, he was so scared, he was literally attached to my hip for months. And then after our first round of popcorn, suddenly he's off on a 2-hour hike with the rest of the pack while I'm setting up the kitchen. The changes I've seen in him, and I've met friends for life through this program. So the idea that we've referred so many other scouts to other units and grown our program so much, I love it because you get that many more people participating and benefiting from this program. And then I've got my contact information up there. We have a couple of Facebook groups going for top selling units. You guys should have gotten invites to that, but if for some reason you haven't, reach out to me. If you have any questions at any time, want to share ideas, run into a problem, I'm going to open this up to Q&A now, but in the future, if you ever have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me at any time. Yes?
Can we get a soft copy of your presentation?
Yep.
Yes,
Thank you.
not a problem.
Second question I had is when you have your individual scouts, and it's kind of a multiple question. 1 scout, 1 parent per shift, 2-hour shifts. You find that scout gets bored, or they want to work, especially if they're shy, they want to work with a friend. So can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on that?
My shy scouts that want to work with a friend usually don't want to work with a friend. They usually want a friend to do the work for them while they hide behind the table. When they don't have the friend to work for them, and they're only there with a parent. See, the problem is when you put 2 scouts and 2 parents there, you either have 2 type A scouts that are not selling, they're too busy goofing off, or you have a shy scout and an outgoing scout, and one ends up hiding, and the other one ends up doing most of the work. But almost always, the 2 parents are not working with the scouts, they're talking with each other and just chit-chatting. When you have 1 scout and 1 parent, the focus is on each other and the sale and the process. And I think that's where we get the most growth. And that's one of the things that I really focus on during the kickoff with the parents is the character development side of things. The reason we're not making this a social event where you're there with the whole den or 3 or 4 other scouts is because it's not about the social part, it's about raising money, but most importantly, the character development. You're going to be having this opportunity here to push your scout to grow, to tell them, no, you need to stand in front of the table, not behind. You need to approach the customer. You need to stick to your script, right? Because this is what's going to help you grow your sale. So we stick pretty firm now. I do have some families with siblings, and if it's just impractical for them to not bring more than 1 scout, that's fine. But we do require 4 individual shifts per scout. So I had someone with 3 boys in the program. She had to work at least 12 shifts because they have to pay for the total program.
And do you count, like, because most front-end stores have 2 doors. So it's one shift, 1 door, south door, north door, or how do you?
I would, yes. All of our stores say we can only sell at 1 door because they want an escape for their customers. But if they did let us sell at both doors, I would put 1 scout at both doors.
Got it.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you deal with no-shows? I mean, I was always never went below 2 scouts for show and sell. Show and sell because people are way too flaky. I don't understand how you can resolve that flakiness. You can't say, well, I have to leave at 11 o'clock, that's my hard stop, and then this other person doesn't show. Are you running down there? I mean, is somebody in your staff of 11 people that you have volunteered running down there? How do you deal with the fact that suddenly you get a text and saying, I have to leave now?
The online scheduling dramatically cuts down on the no-shows, but there are still no-shows. So yes, half my team now, their primary purpose is to build what we're calling our fill-in team. So their job is to, I'm trying to pull in 1 person from every den, usually my most social parent, be it mom or dad, that knows the rest of their den. And they're going to be my fill-in team. So if someone no-shows, I'm going to have a remind group, and I send a message out to my fill-in team, find me someone to fill this shift, you have 5 minutes. And that's what we did last year. Believe it or not, it worked. And we worked an incredible amount of shifts. We're selling it up to 12 stores simultaneously. On any given weekend, I had 1 or 2 people flake out on me. And we had no problem getting parents to fill in at the last minute. We even had a couple of our top sellers that specifically worked with us to not book shifts, knowing that they would just fill in whenever it was available. So,
How do you deal with the inventory? My word, you have like horrendous inventory to be able to stock 12 stores. I can't even stock 2 stores. It's a high risk. How do you deal with the risk of who's taking inventory from shift to shift? Are you trusting the next parent? Are they signing off sheets? I mean, it's like, I have a slew of questions. I can't even imagine trusting one parent to hand off to another. It's just like, it's mind-boggling to me. I mean, it's wonderful. It sounds wonderful.
It worked surprisingly well. Now, don't get me wrong. We did have shrink. There was occasionally a small amount of cash of a product that went missing. For the most part, it was usually an imbalance. You'd see, oh, we have cash missing, but we have extra inventory. Someone just double recorded a sale or something along those lines. In terms of managing inventory, my home flooded, so I had a lot of empty space. All my furniture was destroyed. This year we're using one of our scouts' grandmother lives in the city and is giving us her 2-car garage, which will be stacked wall to wall with popcorn. We have, using a Saturday as an example, our first shift starts at 10. If you sign up for the first shift, you come to my house, or in this case the garage, at 9 a.m., pick up the table, banner, tablecloth, and all the popcorn for the whole day, take it to the store, and you're set up by 10 and you're selling. In between shifts, there's a quick cash and inventory count that both parents sign off on, the one leaving and the one arriving. So they agree on what's there at the time of the shift change. And I only need to investigate it at the end of the day if there's some sort of significant discrepancy. If it's a single bag of popcorn for 5 shifts, I'm not even going to look at it because it's just not worth the time. It's the cost of doing business, particularly at any sort of scale. But if there's any larger discrepancy, I'm going to look at it and figure out what happened and then find out, oh yeah, I recorded this sale from my mom, Johnny's grandma that came by, but she gave me the check and I forgot to put it in the cash box. I'll give you that check tonight. Okay, great. And track it down that way. But we relied on our parents to handle all of the shift change elements. It was a really simple Excel form because we have a limited number of products on the table and only 4 shift changes a day. So it's just a quick inventory count, cash count, and 2 signature lines.
Would you be willing to share that form that you use? I mean, I think we all have some sort of form that we design, but it would be interesting to see the one that you've used as well.
I'm happy to. Shoot me an email and I'll send it to anyone that would want it. Yes?
So you had said at any time, so say during the week or on a weekend, you have 12 stores going at once, and this is the first shift for all those 12 stores, right?
Yes.
I mean, so you have like 12 tables and 12 menus and everything.
Yes.
So do you keep them all in that common area, or people are bringing their own? And
No, the pack bought 12 tables, 12 coolers, 12 banners, actually more banners, but we bought everything. And everything was pack equipment stored in my front room because, like I said, my house flooded. I had my drywall repaired 2 weeks before the popcorn arrived. This year, though, we've got someone that donated their garage. We're going to insulate the door and be good to go. But it's proven to be very beneficial because now when we have an event, the pack has 12 tables, banners, coolers, and the Velcro holds up really well. So when we're at a camp out, we can use these tables to effectively make a wall. And with the banners and all that, it looks really nice to kind of have a wall to segregate where we are. So that way the kids can't easily run out of camp or what have you. And it just looks really cool. At our blue and gold, if we need tables, we go to our pack shed and pull out any of our 12 tables. Or, if we want to keep water bottle stations around the room so people can get water, we have the coolers to do that. Yes?
So you're not dealing with this yet, but being in a pack, but from someone who's in a troop that has boys who have been selling popcorn for 10 or 12 years, those are my guys that it's difficult to get, like, how do you enforce, or maybe you've thought about it going forward, because it seems like you'll continue on as your son grows with scouting, but it's it's a tough thing. Like these boys are like, we had someone come to our table or walk by our table that my son said, would you like to support scouting? And he basically said, if I never see another bag of scouting popcorn, it'll be too soon. Like he sold from when he was a tiger till he eagled out, and they like year popcorn. You know what I mean? So
I do.
What do you have any?
I'm actually the
thoughts on that?
fundraising chair for a troop this year.
Oh, okay.
So I'm dealing with that right now. I'm hitting it from a couple of different angles. The salesmanship merit badge is a good one. I'm setting up a program for the kids that will take them probably about 12 hours, but at the end of the day, they've earned a merit badge, sold an incredible amount of popcorn, and our troop uses scout accounts, and they're going to get most of the commission into their scout accounts. So they'll have raised $400 some and paid for summer camp. Now at the troop level, it's hard to adapt the exact philosophy of $1,000 pays for the year, because our troop camps every month. We do one big summer camp and a high adventure camp every year. So the cost last year, the high adventure camp was camping on the beach in Hawaii. That was $1,800 a person. You can't set a minimum of $10,000 per scout and popcorn so that everyone can do this. What you can do is set a reasonable minimum that would cover troop dues and troop expenses, advancements, awards, and things like that, maybe the basic campouts, and provide the opportunities to earn the bigger campouts. And for that, I just focus on the numbers. My scouts average $125 an hour in sales. The nationwide average is about a 33% cut, and a good chunk of that goes to the scouts. So at the end of the day, you can tell a scout they're making $30+ an hour towards their scouting program, while also raising dollars for their council. And I hit them hard on that, because you want to go to our council's campground, but you want to complain that the bathrooms aren't clean enough for you. Like, support scouting. Our councils don't get to keep the recharter fees. That goes straight to national. The costs, councils have to bear all these costs for all the scouts. What are we doing to help support our council? And my committee initially pushed back on popcorn a bit, and I hit them with that. And the council doesn't keep the recharter fees. Almost all that goes straight to national. If you want better campgrounds, support your council, and you can do that through Friends of Scouting or popcorn. I like popcorn because I think it's more fun, and it's an easier sell. I can tell a scout, either write me a check, or hey, I can give you this plan where you earn a merit badge and summer camp, and you help raise hundreds of dollars for council.
How do you deal with people that don't do their 4 shifts in the pack, or don't do sufficient sales in the troop? I mean, I understand you can have those kinds of goals, and you can start incenting at 1,000, and all this sounds really good, but you still end up with people that flake for whatever reason that might sound fairly convincing, but requires a lot to sort of investigate that it was. How do you deal with it? I mean, you have a buyout program? Is a lot of our
we do not offer a buyout program. We deal with it the way any unit would deal with someone that refused to pay dues. They don't get rechartered. You have to participate in our program. It's in our bylaws. And we had 100% participation. Out of 85 scouts that sold last year, we had 2 families that pushed back. One, I just explained, okay, this is where the dollars are going. And when they saw that, okay, I get it now. And the other one, he's actually childhood friends with our charter org rep. So he's only in our unit because they're friends. He lives 30 to 40 minutes away. So he was complaining about the drive. At the end of the day, I reached out to his den leader, who said, look, dude, come on. We love having you in here. It's an extra hour of driving. I'll do it with you, type thing. And because he was so valued, so he ended up doing his shifts and earning his way. But for the most part, people see the value in it. The idea that the entire program is paid for, they see the benefits in their kids. We didn't have very much pushback. Now, initially, before I had a chance to explain at our kickoff, certainly. When it came to the parents only segment, I had a couple of moms that moved up front and center, and they were angry because they had previous experiences in other units that did not go well. So I mean, our team was aware of this problem and had discussed it, made sure that we hashed out what the potential objections would be and how we were going to overcome that, what we were going to explain. That, you know, this is different. This is what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it.
Covering dues is one thing, but what about, I mean, summer camp, not everybody goes to summer camp. I mean, certainly in Boy Scouts, it's the middle of summer. I mean, a lot of people have family vacations. We get about 2/3 of our troop at best to go to summer camp. So those other third, they had to sell the popcorn. I mean, it's for the good of the troop. There's no doubt about that. It's good for the council, and I understand all that. But I'm just trying to appreciate how you spin that, or do you let them use that funds for some other kind of camp?
At the troop level, it's different. At the pack level, we don't have huge summer camps the way the troops do, where they're going to go stay for a week. Our programs are much smaller in scale, so it's much smaller dollars. You know, and we're at $300, $350 a year for the annual budget per scout. Our Boy Scout troop summer camp was $500 this year, just the summer camp. So we're not setting a minimum expectation that would include the expensive summer camp or the high adventure, but a minimum expectation that would cover Boys Life, all the advancements, awards, recharter, even the idea of the basic campouts, because the other 10 campouts a year, the camping fees are anywhere from $10 to $20 per scout. We have a pretty good idea of what the average attendance is, and it'd be pretty easy to add a buffer in there to safely budget and set a goal around that. And I think it's actually a lower number than at the pack level, because there's not as many other expensive activities once you pull out the summer camp and the high adventures. But we give them the option to work additional shifts if they want to earn those, because when you can start bringing in $30 an hour as a Boy Scout, or more potentially, to earn those camps, it's pretty
So
phenomenal.
do you deal with it like the first 500 goes to the troop, and then beyond that, then they get some 25% or some cut of the thing to their scout account?
Our committee is still voting on that, whether it's going to be you have a mandatory sales amount that entirely goes to the troop, or a larger number, and a small percentage goes to the troop and some goes to the scouts. We haven't decided on what we think is going to be the best messaging. But either one accomplishes the same overall goal.
Right, right. I mean, we've done 25% to the scout for the entire amount for the last 3 years. And that works well, and as long as we can get the troop up to the 38%, then it's really, which I think is 36% last year. So I think they dropped it.
Yeah.
Still a good amount to the troop, but we don't use it to. We still have dues and things like that. So it's interesting to.
Yeah.
So even in the question is, even in Boy Scouts, you require a minimum shift count, or is that only
The committee has not
finalized
finalized that yet. I've been the fundraising chair for 4 weeks.
Okay.
So I had the opportunity to lay out, this is what I did at the pack level, these are the differences I see at the troop level.
Okay.
But I'm new to the troop level, so I'm deferring a lot to my committee on how they think the messaging would be best.
Sure.
In terms of where to set the minimums and how to apply the percentages. I've certainly offered to do the salesmanship merit badge, and I'm going to have a minimum expectation of effort to earn the merit badge that I think will generate significant sales for the scouts. But
I love that.
yeah, that one's going to be good. I saw a couple other hands.
I have a question for you. I've been doing popcorn for several years, and I found the most difficult part for leaders is the tracking, keeping track. You mentioned Square for the credit cards, setting them up as employee. It's a great idea. You mentioned the Excel sheet that they fill out on site. What do you recommend for the back end tracking, like in the evenings after each shift, and how to kind of keep, because the parents are asking for updates constantly, and you're dealing with the cash aspect and checks in addition to the
Run your
Square.
cash through Square.
Yeah, you run all
Square-
cash and checks through Square.
Yeah.
They don't charge anything
Square
for
has a
that,
cash
just a
button.
recording.
Really?
It's
Yes.
spectacular.
It's just like a cash register. You have them record every single transaction in Square, so you know down to the penny and every dollar that every scout has sold,
And more
no matter
importantly,
how that was paid for.
You know the inventory too.
Then you're
It
like-
tracks all the inventory. You can see that Scout so-and-so sold 3 butters, da 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 da.
So
da.
you're not doing a separate tracking sheet
Plus, there's
yourself?
Just one. I run one report from Square that tells me what every scout has sold in real time.
Yeah.
and it's
cash,
it's,
credit, check.
timed and GPS.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
know what location
Yeah.
is what.
I knew that, but I didn't track it as
So when you do
employee.
the cash,
But
you
doing
know.
the cash part.
So you can. So you can watch the inventory, you can know that this storefront is running low on something. I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't be doing that with 12 storefronts, I think I'd have them text you.
Right.
But but if you're only having like 1 or 2 storefronts, then you can manage it
Right.
in your living room and go, ooh, they're running low on butter, I better make a rundown or something.
That's fantastic. And then you're just counting the overall cash together each day and not trying to attribute the cash to each shift.
Right.
Exactly.
So,
It frees up an incredible number of
Oh, yeah.
hours. Now, they do charge you for the individual employee tracking. It's $5 per month per employee.
That's,
It's $10 a scout.
Yeah.
It is so worth it. The number of hours it frees up where you can focus on the growth of your sale
Yeah.
instead of just trying to manage the paperwork of it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
no pulling your hair out at night.
Exactly. I saw hands right here and then.
Yeah, so regarding popcorn prices, so we've
Yes.
been also kind of doing our own prices.
Okay.
Last year we got a pushback. It might be a more general question to like popcorn, but we got pushback from the charter organization that we were giving prices that had nothing to do with scouting, so there's a tax implication. And I didn't know anything about this, and it was kind of like, what do we do with that? So basically, because of them being a charter organization that is a charity organization, 501c3,
Yeah.
whatever, and so it has to do with scouting, and when you then have prizes, which like an Xbox or something like that, there's a, so I don't know if anybody knows anything
I would not
about that. And
I would definitely kick that to a tax professional because you're talking about the IRS and the IRS can be quite scary.
Potentially.
The advice we were given is that as long as it is a posted prize program with specific sales tiers and a specific prize associated with it, that you were okay. If you start offering a specific percentage as a direct benefit is where it starts to get murky and look more like it's payroll. So as long as it is a posted prize schedule with fixed tiers, we were told it's okay. Don't trust my word on that.
Right.
I would definitely look at whatever your tax professionals say. If you look at it though, it is very similar to the prize programs offered by councils, where they do offer scouting goods as well as Xboxes and things like that on a lot of those prize programs.
Especially with Amazon gift cards. I mean, you're just giving out cash then. And it's really,
Right.
Yeah.
That is like payroll then. I don't understand how that can be anything other than payroll. I don't think those kinds of things, which I mean the council does as well, I understand that, but how that can work with a 501c3, I do not understand.
I think it's
They're volunteers.
interpretation. Yeah.
Scouts are volunteers, they're not employees.
Right. And it's how people read and interpret it because one, Troop 339 read it one way, Pack 358 read it another way, you know, so it's so you need to get an accountant that.
It's the chartered organization that
How the IRS
that potentially can get in trouble because they
Yes.
may lose their status as a.
Are you guys familiar with
501c3.
Brian on Scouting? It's an online scouting blog. If you Google it, there's a couple of articles on there specifically about scout accounts, prize programs, incentives,
Okay.
as it relates to fundraising and tax implications.
All right.
So I'd suggest going to that and then looking at tax professionals because that's really a hand grenade type question where I don't want to give you advice that ends up
Right.
causing problems for you or your charter. I just know what we were told and that's what we're acting
I
on.
was just thinking that there might be some, I don't know, if within the popcorn community or the council district or national, knowing what, I mean, when you opt out of prizes, there should be some kind of a rule or regulation that, you know, you have to do it this way, otherwise you might.
You're not really
be in
opting out
trouble.
of prizes, you're just opting out of these people giving you the prizes, you're doing your own.
Well, I'm
prizes
opting out of the council prizes.
and creating your own.
Well, I'm creating my own, but what are the, standards there? Because the charter organization said it has to do something with scouting. It can't be like gift cards or Xboxes and stuff like that. If it's part of scouting, then that's.
For that, I would just show them what the council's prize program is as an example. What we did is we took our council's prize program, added additional tiers, and spent more money on them.
Right.
So that they were more attractive.
That's kind of what we did, but the charter organization then said, well, you have to go with the council's prizes because those are kind of standardized and work
I think that's
for them.
education.
So I'm like, go away.
Hey, we would be, as a council, I would be happy to go meet with your charter organization and kind of walk them through this process. So if anybody has a charter organization, we have the council be more than happy to sit down with them and talk about it and kind of clear that up with them. If it's a posted prize program, hasn't been any issues with it. Recently, where the IRS has had some rulings in the last couple of years is when it comes to direct benefit for the actual scouts. It wasn't the charter organizations, but for the scouts themselves. That was where we had some teams and things like that in other places that wasn't scouting organizations or youth organizations, but there were some teams where people were receiving direct benefits, whereas they would raise money and then they got that money to spend on things that wasn't directly aligned to their scouting adventure. So most of what we do in fundraising is all going back to putting the kids through the program or being spent on scouting outings and things like that. Where other organizations have gotten in trouble is where they've done fundraising that spent that money, for example, to go on things that weren't related to the activity. So purchasing things that aren't related to the activity. Now, prizes are not included in that. It wasn't the prize part of it. It was the actual, hey, it's like if you took your commission and then we're like, hey, we're just going to take a Disney vacation just for the sake of, we're going to take a vacation. It's not a scouting thing at all. So. Yeah.
So when you talk about the direct benefit of scouts, I think that's where there's a misunderstanding between the person who was in charge of it at the troop level versus the pack level. So, and this kind of folds into my question. So I just want to clarify, 1 scout per shift, that scout earns all that sales for those 2 hours.
Yes.
So that's not a direct benefit. That was the pushback I received from someone at the troop level saying that if all scouts earned, if a scout earned a shift and it was that scout shift and that scout sales, that's a direct benefit to the scout. So I just want to,
there's a difference. There's a difference between how much the scout generated in sales versus how much he receives as like a cash commission.
Got it. Okay, and that's my understanding. So I think we're clear on that. The second one is on that. If when you do your sign up Genius, sign up Dot, do you have pushback from parents where there's favoritism because some scouts get better shifts than others? And I'm not referring to your top seller commitment piece of paper, but if I've sent stuff out via Sign Up Genius, and it's like, oh, well, Johnny always gets the best shifts. It's like, well, Johnny signed up. It's kind of like a parent volunteer signs up at school. They get the best things. So how do you handle that?
What we do to minimize that is our sign up went live 2 hours after our popcorn kickoff ended.
Okay.
We only release 1 week of our sign up at a time, the first week. And then only once that is filled completely do I open the next week. Because if I opened all 8 weeks, I'll have all 8 weeks 80% filled, but that means I have empty shifts in the middle of the day. If you have 2 scouts per shift, it's not as much of an issue. With 1 scout per shift, I can't have an empty table.
Okay.
So we fill up 1 week at a time and release it that way. I didn't have any parents pushing back. I even specifically to avoid that, I asked my popcorn team to wait at least 24 hours before signing up for a shift. I personally waited 3 days specifically for that reason. I didn't want to offer any sort of implication that I was favoring myself, my son, or my team. We took most of the worst shifts in all reality as a team.
We restricted families to 1 shift per weekend until the Thursday before, because we did Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So 1 shift per weekend, and then we would open it up for more. And then to take a little weight off of us, if you wanted that first or last shift and you were willing to move products, I was happy to give you priority for that first shift or that last shift if you would pack up and not make me have to get up in the morning and go running. So
yeah,
a lot of people wanted that first shift.
I just refused to set up first shifts on a large scale. If my son was going to work the shift, sure, no problem. But I explained to the pack, we're trying to pay for the entire budget. This is not just the popcorn team. This is a team effort. Everyone in this room needs to participate. Do your 4 shifts. Some of us are going to need to do some setup shifts, and some need to do some teardown shifts. And I pushed our leadership to take those during the first week. Parents didn't really have a problem filling in the rest of the time because there's no way I could drive around with a trailer to 12 stores getting them started. I think we are running a little low on time, but any other questions? Yes.
So what are the top stores? Top 3 or top 5 stores?
Top 3, top 5 scouts? Stores. Oh, stores. Stores. That's a tough one because it's not any particular brand of store. It's more about where it was and what the demographics were. We had one area, a little enclave, about 13 miles from us. There's no units there. There's a lot of gated communities, golf courses. There's only one grocery store within a 5-mile radius. Everyone that lives there has to shop there, and no scouts sell there. So I had scouts that were doing $200 to $300 an hour on weekends at that store. Now they had to drive 30 minutes or more in traffic to get there, but the results could potentially be very beneficial. But I had Albertsons tends to be
mainly grocery stores. Though,
yeah,
right?
mainly grocery stores, but we sold at lumber yards, diners, doctors' offices, any place that would really say yes, we'd try it out, because when you only have one scout per shift, the average sale for most units is about $18. 7 sales get to $125 an hour. So with one scout, I only need 7 sales to be generating $125 an hour. That's $250 a shift, or $1,000 in 4 shifts. It's not hard to get 7 sales. That's not a lot of foot traffic. If you put 4 scouts at the table, suddenly you need 30 sales an hour to generate the same amount of money per scout. That's not going to happen just about anywhere. But 7 sales an hour, you can do that at a lot of locations where Michael's and Joann's Fabrics and all that starts to look really doable. My baseline, though, is I want to make sure that every grocery store in my district is filled. And if I can't get a unit to take it, I'll get my scouts to work it. Because generally speaking, everyone eats food. It's kind of a general rule. And so if you are at every grocery store, then everyone in that community is going to see the scouts and have an opportunity to buy popcorn, support scouts, and potentially join scouts. So I want to make sure that we're at every grocery store where possible. Every other location I see as just bonus sales, where it's going to be more driven by the people that really care about scouting or an impulse buy. You know, a lot of our lumberyard sales tend to be someone that was hungry in the moment. Truck stops are going to be another big one for us this year. I've talked with a lot of units that do very well at truck stops and do really tremendous sales. And when you think about it, it's a population, a customer base that is constantly changing. So from one weekend to the next, it's a whole different group of people that are in the same spot buying from you. So the potential there is really phenomenal. It tends to be a larger percentage of veterans in the population, so you're going to see more military donations and things like that. And there's a lot more of the scouting philosophy there as well. But I'm the math guy, so I approach everything from that standpoint. I need 7 sales an hour to make a location make sense. And that means the day of the week even. Who wants to go sell on a Tuesday? Really, a Tuesday? But if a Tuesday night I can still average 6 or 7 sales an hour, it's worth it. The math pencils out. The kids are bringing in enough money to pay for their program. And so that's why store-wise, I don't particularly care what the store is called, as long as it is a safe location and within the beliefs of scouting. You know, there's been some Girl Scouts in front of dispensaries on the news, and that's not going to be any of my scouts. But as long as it's safe and within the beliefs, I'll try it out, because we only need